Hello, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be painting a robot cow that's on fire. And I've got a mustache. Anyway, let's do some painting. Okay, so as you can see, I've primed it black. The arms are all magnetized, they're primed black as well. I'm going to paint them. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to base coat everything in matte black. Now that seems silly because it's already black. But this is because this black will be slightly different to this black. So why I'm doing that is later on, in case I make any mistakes and I need to retouch up the black areas, the bits that I'm going to leave black, I want it to be able to colour match so it doesn't look weird later. So I'm just going to do that with a big brush, or my airbrush, I haven't decided yet. Okay, so I went in with the airbrush and I did a little bit of highlighting with just, like I said, straight dark sea blue, just to put the highlights where I want them to be. And now what we're going to do is we're going to mix in a little bit of ice yellow into the dark blue, into the dark sea blue on the wet palette. And then I'm just going to go in with some edge highlights. And I'm basically going to edge highlight as many of the edges as I can be bothered, really. Because there's a lot of edges on this. And I'm just using the edge of the brush. I'm not worrying about it too much. Just going to take my time. Okay, this is voiceover Dan, because live action Dan was waffling. I'm going to try and not waffle as voiceover Dan. Anyway, what I wanted to say was a very important tip of doing any freehand or detailed work or edge highlighting or anything like that is keeping both hands in contact with the model. As you can see here, I'm always bringing my hand with my paintbrush in back to the model, even if it's just my little finger, just to balance myself and rest on it. It means that both my hands and the model are all moving in the same direction. So if I shake, they all shake at the same time, which means it's steady for painting. It's a really important tip. You should also try and steady your elbows onto the table or tuck them into your sides so that your whole core is really steady. It allows you to do much more detailed work without making any mistakes or things like that. Okay, back to live action, Dan. Like I said, just use the edge of the brush and take your time. My camera is moving because my puppy is moving the tripod that it's on. Here she is, trying to act cute, trying to say, "Forgive me for knocking the camera while you're doing this." That's okay, I forgive her. That's where she sleeps when I'm working. If anything in this video deserves a like and a subscribe, it's Jojo. That's her name. She's a little cutie. She's a terror, but she's cute. So the next step, we're using mostly eyeshadow here with a little bit of the dark sea blue mixed into it, and we're just going to be adding some choice highlights to areas we want to stand out a bit more. So like corners, we're going to do all the rivets. We're going to do a lot of the face with this, just to highlight the face a bit more and make it stand out a bit more. So as you can see, this is much brighter. Like I said, it's mostly ice yellow. And like I said, we're just going to be doing like these little corners. We're not going to be edge highlighting the whole thing with this. Just select bits. So like the sharp edges, like I said. And most of the rivets and the face. And then that's pretty much the armor done. So let me go over this whole thing. Okay, so the highlighting is all done. And I've blocked in his eyes with just white. And I'm going to go over them now with some contrast paint. The flesh terror is red. And I'm just going to go over them. And I'm not going to be worried if I overspill. I actually want a little bit of overspill because we're going to try and make these look a bit glowy. But we'll do that in a minute. But the most important thing now is to just get that red blocked in, nice and vibrant. Which is why we started off with the base of white. Okay, so the red's dry. This is what I was using, flesh terror red contrast. Next up, we're going to get a bit of medium orange from AK. AK are my go-to paints. I do use some contrast paints, as you can see. I used to use Vallejo paints as well, but I've basically transitioned fully to AK now. And we're just going to put this in the bottom, like we'd be painting a gem. Do the same on the other side. We're just doing like a little semicircle on the bottom of the eye. Like I said, it's really hard to paint eyes on camera, but I'm doing my best here. Just like a little reflection on the bottom of the eye. Like that. we're going to get a bit of white. And we're going to draw a line towards the bottom inside of that semicircle, that little crescent we've just drawn. And we're going to put a dot at the top. So we get this. Let's see if we can zoom in on this. That's what we're going for. I'll do the other one off because there's no way I'm going to be able to do that again on camera. So let me do this one and I'll come back with the next step because we're not quite finished yet. We're going to make these glowy. Okay, we managed to do it to both eyes. So the next step is we're going to get the flesh as red again and we're going to really thin it down. And an important step here is when you've thinned it down and you loaded your paintbrush up, you want to try and get as much of it off the paintbrush as possible. It sounds silly, but if there's too much liquid on there, then you won't be able to control where it goes when you're trying to do the next step. And so one thing we can do first off, we can just glaze over the whole thing to bring the red back into the eye. And the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be pushing the paint up towards the eye. We're going to be glazing this up towards the eye. I just got some more paint, whipped it off again, and I'm going to keep pushing it back towards the eye. And this will give us a glow effect. We need to be patient with this, and then we'll wait for it to dry. And we'll wait for it to dry. And then we go in again. And we do another layer, pushing it towards the eye. Because what we're going to do is eventually just build up a bunch of pigment in this area to make it look like it's glowing. And then we can go back later and reinforce the highlight on the eye as well. So let me do this. It'll take a couple of goes to do this, a couple of layers. And if you're more confident, you don't have to thin the paint down so much. But the thinner it is, the less likely you are to make mistakes. Okay. So we glazed the red up towards the eye, and then I just re-put in the dots. But I used some ice yellow rather than using white. Because the white was a bit too harsh. I did try it, and then I just put some dots of white yellow in, ice yellow. I didn't do it on camera because it's really difficult. I'm surprised I did it the first time, to be honest. But yeah, so we just glazed it up. I did a little tiny highlight with some orange around the edge. And then, like I said, I dotted in some ice yellow. This is not white, this is ice yellow. And that'll do us, I think. One other small thing that I did, you might notice, is I just went back in with some blue and some black, and I just fixed some of these lines so that they were a bit neater. And that's why, like I said at the beginning, we sprayed it all, or painted it all with the black that was different to the primer, so that I could go back in and fix it. Okay, so the next step we're going to be doing is we're going to be working on the flames. And the first step we're going to be doing on all of these flames, all the flames on his back, on his stomach, on his back, everywhere, is we're going to be blocking them all in with white. This is probably going to take a couple of layers, but I'm going to be using Pro Acryl Old Titanium White. It's got really good coverage, so it'll probably still take 2 layers of this, but that's the plan, and I'll come back once I've blocked all that in, and then we'll start work on the flames, and this will really make this model come to life, or some other saying. Anyway, you should subscribe because I'm good at painting-ish and not good at talking. Yeah, you should subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. What my skill set is. Everything is base coated in white. This has taken me 2 coats to get to this level. It's still not 100% covered, but that's okay because the next step is going to cover all this anyway. What we're going to do is we're going to use some Imperial Fist, contrast Imperial Fist yellow, and we're just going to put this over everything. And this will give us a really nice, bright, vibrant yellow. We don't want to use I see a lot of the pink base coat, undercoat for yellow trick. We don't want to use that here because we don't want the pink shadows. We want the deepest parts to be the brightest. In fact, we will go back later with more white to make them even brighter. Because fire, unlike the way some people paint it, does not go from darkest to lightest. It goes from lightest, brightest, where it is hottest, to darkest. And I see a lot of people painting the bright yellow at the end because it's easier to paint the black and the dark colors at the base. But that's not what I do. So yeah, we're just going to base coat all of this bright yellow, and then I'll come back. Next up, we have got a mix of medium orange and the yellow contrast paint. And what we're going to do is we are going to, as you can see here, we're just glazing it toward the end. This is going to be quite thin because of the contrast paint. We're just pushing it to the ends because we want to build up the ends of these flames gradually. So we're left with the yellow in the recesses and at the base where it would be hottest down here. And then what we'll eventually do is we'll just use pure medium orange. And then after that, we'll do a mix of red and orange, then just red, and then we'll go red and black, and then just very black bit right on the very tips, maybe. We'll see how it looks. But this is the first stage. It looks a bit messy to start off with, because we're just, like I said, it's just the first stage. It's just like, this is like it's not even a mid-tone really. But don't worry, I'll go through the next stages and I'll show you how we build it up. Like I said, make sure you leave the yellow in the recesses. It's kind of like reverse highlighting. You want to be leaving the brightest bits in the recesses, and then we'll put the darkest bits towards the ends and on the tips. Okay, so let me do the other one, and I'll do the main man himself, and then I'll come back and we'll do the next step, which will be just orange by itself. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just use some pure medium orange, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to be getting a bit of paint, thin down to a glaze consistency, and then wicking the paint off. And then we're just going to be pushing it towards the ends of the fire. You want to see it? You can see it in a minute, okay? We're going to be pushing it all the way to the end of the fire. As you can see, I've already done the mix of the orange and yellow. So we're always pushing it where we want it to go, where we want the darker bit to be, which is the tips of the fire. So that's what we're working on now. Okay, let me do this bit over the whole thing, and then I'll come back and do the next bit. Can you stop turning the light off, please? Thank you very much. All right, the 2-year-old is having a nap. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to do a mix of flesh charged red with the medium orange. And we're thinning this down again. We're just going to be glazing this up. Some of these transitions are going to be a bit rough, but that's okay because we will come back later and we will fix it all. So don't worry if they're a little bit rough, but this one's going to be a bit more focused towards the tips. And again, we want to wick a bunch of the paint off because we don't want it this runny. If there's too much liquid, we don't have much control as I'd like. But again, we're just pushing this to the top. We need, like the darker we get, the more controlled we need to be, because the lighter colours are easier they're less impactful immediately than the darker colours. So this is all we're doing. We're always pushing it up where we want it to be, towards the tips. So the biggest deposit of paint ends in the darkest spot. Okay, next step is going to be a small step that I'm going to do this a couple of times throughout the course of doing this. Is I'm going to go back to our original Imperial Fist Yellow, and I'm going to water it down, maybe 50-50 water, and I'm just going to put it back over the top of everything, glaze it back down, and this one I'm going to push down to where the yellow is, in the same way that I was pushing up towards the red. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want the fire to be really vibrant, and this will also help smooth out those transitions. Because the fire should be probably majority an orange to contrast against the blue armor nicely. And so if it becomes a bit too red, that's okay. Because like I said, I'll probably end up doing this a few times over the next couple of steps, just to put that yellow back in, that orange tone back in. And it doesn't look like it's doing very much at the minute, but once we've done this a couple of times, it will make a huge difference for the vibrancy of everything. Okay, so I'm going to do this across everything, and then I'll come back once it's done. All right, next up, we've just got the straight flesh over. This is really thin down because this is a really strong paint, and we're having to wick a lot of this off. But we're just putting this, believe it or not, at the very ends. Doing the same thing again, and we're just pushing it to the top where we want it to be. There's too much liquid on the brush there. Because once again, we just want the paint to be darker at the top and nowhere else. We want to glaze it over it all. This is even more precise than the previous layers. So I've hit a wall. I'm really not happy with how the fire is looking on this thing, but I think half of the problem is that there's no glow effect, so it looks like the fire is just kind of flat and it's not glowing. I'll try and put a glow effect around myself, around me, so because I'm an editing genius. I'm going to persist with it and keep going, and hopefully by the end of it, I think you'll have already seen a picture of it, so you know if it turns out good or bad. You might never see this video. If you're seeing this, it turned out probably okay. But I think at times like this, when you hit this wall with painting, where things kind of look a bit grim, you've kind of just got to keep painting. Just push on. Try and fix it. Try and do what you can. If it doesn't look right at the end, do better next time. Learn. Move on. I think that's the key here, the life lesson. Anyway, let's move on to the next part of the model, which I think is probably the metallics. I don't know where I'm up to at this point in the video, what I've put before or after this ramble, this descent into inadequacy in front of a camera. Let's just get better. Let's move on. Let's keep painting. All right. So I had to take a little bit of a step away from this because I was a bit too close to it and I was really not enjoying the process of painting it. But what I've done since the last time you saw it is I've put like I was doing with the yellow, I was putting the yellow on and washing it down, like glazing it down towards where the yellow was. What I've done is I've gone ahead with the medium orange and I've glazed some medium orange back into the midtone because it was starting to look too red at the top end and it was starting to look too yellow at the bottom end, and I needed it to look orange. So that's what I did. The next thing that I did is I took some of the, what's it called? The Flesh Terror's red that we were using, and I mixed quite a lot of black into it. And I've just painted the tips of the fire with that. And so that's where we're at. Yeah, and like I said, I think I was just too close to it. I wasn't enjoying the process. I wasn't happy with how it was turning out. I'm still not 100% happy with it, but I think once we add some glow and we've done the metallics, it will look a lot better. So that's the next step. I've got some of the black red on that paintbrush here that I was gonna do, but it doesn't really matter too much. It's just basically a dark color at the end. So I'll let me do that on these, and then we'll come back and I'll start doing the metallics. Okay, we're going to do the smoke now. And this is really, really simple. This is a much easier method than the fire. So I've done the same thing where I basically did white and then used the yellow contrast paint just all over everything. And then all we're going to do is we're going to dry brush it this time. So first thing we're going to do is a mix of the orange, medium orange, and the yellow. And then I like to use this is a canvas board. It's a dry brushing palette, I think. I know a lot of people use a homemade thing, or one from like a company that makes wooden ones or whatever. But yeah, just a canvas board. It's textured. It's a bit absorbent. So yeah, it's nice. That's what I like to use. And then I'm just going to be dry brushing down because I want to leave the yellow in the recesses. And I want this to be quite a damp dry brush, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't. I don't want it to be too dry. I need a bit of moisture in the brush, but not loads of pigment. Oh, you might be able to hear my dog, Jojo. I think I showed her off in either this video or the previous video. She's barking at pigeons. So what I'm going to do is use this, and then I'm going to go just pure medium orange. And then medium orange with the contrast, the red contrast, flesh terrors, and then just flesh terrors, and flesh terrors and black. I'm going to have to go stop Jojo barking at pigeons. I don't even know if you can hear it in the background. I assume that you can. But we're just going to do this really slowly, really gradually, and build it up. I'll go through all the layers from the previous step, and then I'll come back. There's a couple of little steps after we've done the dry brushing to smooth it all out that I want to show you. All the dry brushing is done, and we've got to this, which does look significantly different to this. But the next step we're going to do is we're going to do a bit of airbrushing. And I know everybody hates airbrushing, but stick with me. You can do this with a paintbrush. It just takes a lot longer. And what we're going to be doing with the airbrush is we've got some of the flesh terrors red mixed in, and it's really thin. And so what we're going to do from like a top-down angle is we're going to glaze this red over it to smooth these transitions out a bit, and to add a bit of the colour back in, where we've desaturated it with the black and the orange and everything. So we're just putting this colour back in, bring it all back together. It's already looking much better. Now you can do this with a paintbrush. I did say that, and I wasn't lying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip a paintbrush into my airbrush cup, and I'm going to show you how to do that, so that I don't get people complaining. Oh my gosh, you've got an airbrush. I don't have an airbrush, so I can't follow this tutorial. Well, I guess it sucks to suck. So what we're doing with the paintbrush is we're just glazing it down. It's exactly the same mixture. I just wicked it off the brush, like I said before. We're just pushing it down on the top edges, down, 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 down. So it's exactly the same. It just takes significantly longer. Okay, I'm going to let this dry, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a bit of black into my airbrush mixture and do the same thing again to darken it even more from the top. All right, so we've got the red on there. The red's back in, and now we're coming in with some black. It's not black, it's like a dark, you can't see. It's like a dark red. I've just put a bit of black into the red. And this is going to take a couple of layers to build up this dark color. But that's okay. We just take our time. Make sure it's done properly. What's the saying? If something's worth doing, do it right, or something. I don't know. Okay, this paint's not dark enough. I need to add more black. So I've basically got almost pure black in my airbrush now. And so we're going to just get the black on the tops of the smoke bubbles, billows, whatever they're called. I'm no smoke scientist. You know what I mean, then. Okay. Looking like billowy smoke. All right, all the metallics are base coated. So I've just used a dark silver. I can't remember which one I used, but a dark silver, and then I've used, is it necro gold or decayed metal from scale 75 on the gold bits, the bits that are going to be gold, and then I'm going to go in with some necro gold to highlight up from those, and then what I'll do is I'll highlight up with a chainmail or like a bright silver color. The other thing that I've done is I've used some, what is it called, Black Templar contrast paint, and I've watered it down probably 50-50 with water and just washed it all over the metal parts, and I've pushed it in the direction that I want. You can see on this metal face thing, that I've put it where I want the shadows to be. And the same on this silver bit, I've put it where I want the shadow to be. Anyway, the next step is we're going to be using some of this Necro Gold. Now these paints are kind of gel-based. They're a bit weird, but they act more or less the same. But you do have to water them down and just be a bit more careful with them when you're using them. But that's the next step. I'm just going to go through and I'm going to push this where I want the highlights to be. And I'm not going to take up all of the decayed metal, because I still want some of it to show through, and I still want some of those shadows to show through. And we'll do some edge highlighting with this, leaving some of that in the recesses and things like that. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go across the whole thing, and we're just going to push this where we want it to be. And then what I'll do is, like I said, I'll use like a silver or something like that. I think it's chainmail. It's a really old Citadel paint that I've got that I'll use for the highlighting the silver. And I'll do that, and then we'll come back, and then we'll do the glow effect, which is the last step before we put him on his base. All right, let me get all this gold done and silver, and then I'll come right back. All right, we are nearly done. I'm just going to do some very subtle glow. As you can see here, I've already done a bit on his leg, and I think that's kind of all we're going to do with this guy. The rest of my Chaos Dwarfs, Hellsmiths of Hashut, aren't very dramatic with their glow. So we're just going to do the same on this guy. So what I've got in my airbrush here, yes, I'm using an airbrush, is some, I think it's called Medium Rust. I'm coming out with this spotty now. There we go. It's called Medium Rust from AK. There we go. And I've got it thinned down a lot. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the model upside down. Let me take his guns off for this, make it a bit easier to hold onto him. And I'm just going to spray from the bottom up. And we can start in the middle here, in his, the bit that no one's going to see, basically. So we can get the feel of what the airbrush is doing. We can move that onto his tail. And then we're just going to hit all these bottom areas. So we're going to try and hit the bottom edges with this. Again, you can do this with a paintbrush. But I'm doing it with airbrush because it's faster. So we're just going to hit all these bottom edges really carefully, just slowly build it up. If it's spotting a bit like this, I'm going to persist with it because I'm being lazy. Just thin the paint a bit more. We don't want to ruin it at this stage. If you're worried about ruining it, just thin the paint a bit more. I think what's happened here with my airbrushes is I left it a little bit while I went and got a drink after I'd done the first leg, and it's dried out a little bit around the tip. So I probably need to clean it and then come back in and do this again. But this is the idea. Yeah, this is not playing. So anyway, this is medium orange. No, medium rust from AK. I'm spraying up. And then all I'm going to do after I've done this medium rust is I'm just going to edge highlight the bottom edge of everything with some medium orange. And I think once we've got his arms on, other way on, goes there, goes there. Once we've got him on his base, I think he's going to look quite nice. And here we are. Here we find ourselves. Oh, something. I've got one model left to paint for Spearhead, which is the artillery piece, the cannon or whatever it is. So that'll maybe be the next video. I might just do it off camera and then move on to something else that's army. Maybe some bull centaurs or some hobgrots. Let me know in the comments what unit you would like to see next from this army. I'm really happy with how they're progressing so far, though. So let me know if you like them as well. And obviously, if you could subscribe, that would be great. On the road to 1,000 subscribers, we're at, I think it's like, I don't know, 630-ish at the minute. So we're doing okay. I just need to be more consistent, I think, which is pretty difficult with a 2-year-old and a puppy, as you've seen in this video. But if you're still here, then thanks for watching everything. I'll do a quick spin around of this guy. We've just finished. Let's have a look. Probably should have done this first. Yes, I'm pretty happy with how he came out. Is there anything you'd change? Let me know. I maybe should have done the tail a different color, but I just, the tail's at the back, so no one's going to see it. Anyway, see you.